now listening to the Arsenal Therapy Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the 15-minute show, part of the Arsenal Therapy Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Adam Keys, and today we are going to be talking about Emile Smith Rowe. We're going to be having a look at his performance against Luton. We're going to be having a look at the pros, the cons, and the things that we think Mikel Arteta will want him to improve on. There's a reason Smith Rowe has been in and out of the team, and it hasn't just been because of injury, but we all know that that glowing talent remains. We saw it so much in the 21-2 season, and it's something that we really want to see again in the Arsenal team. There was always an outside chance that he would have got a start against Luton, given that we thought Mikel Arteta would have made changes. No one foresaw 5 changes coming. It did affect the fluidity of the team, but ultimately it highlighted just how good Smith Rowe is, and it made it more difficult for him to really shine in such a heavily rotated team. But alongside players like Martin Odegaard, Kai Havertz, it gives Smith Rowe the opportunity to really show he belongs on that stage. And with the return of Thomas Partey behind him, he had a very quick releaser, someone that likes to take the ball in the half turn and give it quickly. So it allowed Smith Rowe to get the ball in space quick. It gave him a chance to play against a very solid, very physical team who were pretty heavily injury hit. We have to say that about Luton, if we're being completely honest here. But without further ado, let's dive straight into some Smith Rowe talk, a bit of analysis, and we're going to have a look at his performance on the whole last night. So first up, as everyone knows, Smith Rowe won man of the match. It was a game where he really shone for Arsenal, especially in that first half. He came away with some big moments and 2 attempts on goal, 1 on target, 55 touches of the ball, 39 passes and 2 key passes. So it was a very good, very energetic performance from Smith Rowe. He's got that buzzing, bee-like ability around the middle of the pitch. And he's a half-space monster. He's someone that likes to take the ball, move it quickly, run with it. He works very well. He can create transitions out of nothing. And that's a skill that very few players can do. And for me, I've always seen Smith Rowe as somewhat of a hybrid between Jack Grealish and Phil Foden. He's got more of the strength of a Grealish, and he's got more of the half-turn quick drive that Phil Foden has. And I would say more of Foden's goal threat, whereas we know Grealish isn't really a goal scorer. However, to reach the players that those two have reached, we need to see Smith Rowe on the field more. So that would be the profile that I would give him, not necessarily the performance level as of yet, but a man of the match performance last night, and this will do wonders for Smith Rowe's confidence. And also the minutes that he played last night will do a lot of good for the rustiness that we saw in his game, because look, you can train every day, but stepping out on the grass in a Premier League tie is a completely different test. So let's have a look at some of his key moments in the game. So we're going to have a look at his heat map first off. As you can see from this, he was all over the park, but predominantly down that left-hand side, floating into the left half space. And you can see the heat map where he gets himself into the box. That's something he's particularly good at, is those runs, the timing of the runs. He's got a Lampard-esque ability to arrive in the same way Martin Odegaard does. What Smith Rowe really thrives at, though, when he gets into those positions is his ball striking and how quickly he can hit a ball. So that's something he's always reminded me of De Bruyne when he gets in that position. De Bruyne can take a touch and hit the shot before the keeper's set. It's like that half step early. He's not fully set himself, but he knows the keeper's more unsettled than he is. So with this, 39 out of 44 passes completed. That's a really high number when you consider the kind of role Smith Rowe played last night. 2 key passes in the game. He won 1 duel. He only lost possession 8 times, but he made 2 interceptions, and one of them we'll get on to was a huge moment in the game. So the big moment for Smith Rowe came with the assist for Nelson's goal stroke, the own goal. What I really loved here is Trossard plays it in. You can see from the top left graphic, again, into that left half space, into the box, and his ability to drive. And then in the second one, you can see Smith Rowe carries this ball so close, almost touch tight to the line. He gets really, really close to the keeper, and he creates chaos in this position. So a lot of players will, when they drive at the keeper, drive too close to the edge of the 6, can't really do anything. they ultimately win a corner. But Smith Rowe is a player that can cause a lot of danger in this position, and I really liked him going this close because I know the damage he can do. He is someone, because his touch is so good, because he runs with the ball so tight to his feet, he can dink it into that space. Not many other players can do it. And as you can see, Reiss Nelson coming in, attacking the box, and Nelson puts it into the exact area that Smith Rowe puts it into the exact area that you would want if you're Reiss Nelson. And ultimately, it ends up in the back of the net because Nelson is in a position where a defender has to commit or the player scores. In this situation, fortunately for the defender, if he leaves that ball, it probably goes under his foot. But at the same time, there is another Arsenal player in behind who could have scored. So you don't take any chances as a defender, but this is what Smith Rowe can create for Arsenal. It's that ability to drive into the box. We've seen it in previous occasions. We saw it against Burnley a couple of years ago, where he made a dart and run down the left-hand side, shook off his man, and literally went the long way round and got back into a similar position as you can see in the second graphic here, slid it back to Lacazette, who came towing a caravan into the box and was about a yard short of tapping it into an empty goal. But again, these are the things that Smith Rowe gives you in that 8 position. He gives you a very different option to Martin Odegaard, to Kai Havertz, even to what we saw with Granit Xhaka last year. The only other one that offers some of these skills is possibly Fabio Vieira, and we haven't seen enough of Fabio to really prove that he can do it on a regular basis. But with Smith Rowe, we know he can do it in the Premier League. What Smith Rowe's challenge now is proving he belongs in this team and proving he belongs at this level. We know he can do it when in a team competing for top 4, but there's a big, big difference between a team competing for top 4 and a team competing for a title against Manchester City and Liverpool. So next up, another huge moment in the game was the Martin Odegaard goal, which this goal came very early, 23 minutes into the game. Smith Rowe comes running in, he reads it, so you can see from the first graphic how quickly he spots it. He comes in, he closes it, one loose touch, it's a square pass from Luton, and he spots that this is his moment to intercept. So this was one of 2 interceptions he made in the game, and a huge one at that. But what I liked was he got close to Martin Odegaard, and then you see he wins it, he gives it, and then he doesn't stand still. He starts moving towards the box. So when Odegaard shoots, you can see Smith Rowe arriving at the edge of the box. You know that the minute that ball is hit, Smith Rowe is attacking the penalty spot. If that's palmed out by the keeper, if that's blocked by the defender, Smith Rowe is targeting that area. And we will look at the evidence to show why we know he's going to do that. And this is something that very few players have. This is something that made Smith Rowe a fan favourite with the Arsenal team. Look, this is a guy that can dribble, he can pass, he can shoot. He can do all these things, but it's his off-the-ball work that's often criticised. Smith Rowe has got a capacity where he can switch off at times, where when the game when we lose the ball and we're playing our very aggressive off the ball game, sometimes you can have a bit of a passenger in Smith Rowe. Going forward and winning his attacking duels isn't as much of an issue. It tends to be when Smith Rowe has to go backwards, when he has to get on his bike, as we saw against Newcastle. We saw it against Nottingham Forest when he came on in that game. Or sorry, against Sheffield United when he came on there. Against Forest, he had a very good game in that start. But again, there were some instances where he just wasn't quick enough to get back. So it's not natural for Smith Rowe. If you watch Martin Odegaard, when Arsenal lose the ball, he turns and spins and chases. Kai Havertz does it. Declan Rice does it. Bukayo Saka does it. Martinelli can do it at times. Sometimes he's got a tendency to be a bit slow. But with Smith Rowe, it's clearly not a natural thing. But that's something with the right man on your back that can be coached. Jose Mourinho coached Mesut Ozil to do it. He came to Arsenal, Arsene Wenger didn't make him do it, and Ozil stopped. But Arteta is not going to carry Smith Rowe, because as good as Smith Rowe is, he is not as good as a Martin Odegaard or a Bukayo Saka in this team. But this is a serious talent that if he can just add these small details to his game, he is someone that's going to be a huge asset for Arsenal. And as I've said before, squad players win you titles. It's not the starting 11. The starting 11 will be stretched to the match as the season goes on. You need your Smith Rowe's, Thomas Partey's, Takahiro Tomiyasu's, Fabio Vieira's, Gabriel Jesus, those kind of players that aren't necessarily starters, but are players that can go and deliver real high quality performances and win you games. So this was another moment when I've already mentioned about Smith Rowe's ability to attack the box. So first you see Martin Odegaard, ball at the edge of the box. Smith Rowe is attacking that half space to the left of the penalty spot, coming in and hits it first time. This is what he does. I've mentioned before, he has the ability to take a shot before he's fully set because he's such a good ball striker. His anticipation and ability to arrive at the right time is so high that he can catch the keeper off guard. On this occasion, the ball comes ricocheting off the inside of the defender's thigh, which actually helps the keeper and puts it more in line with his dive. Stops it coming out to Kai Havertz. But look, we can see from the run, the shot, this has given Odegaard an option that he hasn't had in the left 8 position all season, because Smith Rowe is also arriving as a right footer. That's something that we also have to consider. If you look at when Odegaard arrives in from the right 8 position, he's coming in on his left foot with the ability to strike the ball on his better foot. With Kai Havertz, with Fabio Vieira, and with Xhaka last season, it was a left footer coming in, and all of those players have a fairly weak right foot. With Smith Rowe, he's fairly two-footed. He scored a lot of goals with both feet, but his right foot is as good as anyone. So when someone like Odegaard has that player and he's on the edge of the box, he's not going to think twice about sliding that ball through, and there's going to be a much higher chance that we score from these positions. This is a threat that no one else in the Arsenal team offers at this time, and this is an area where we can improve on, and it's also something that Smith Rowe can really use to his advantage in the Arsenal team. But some of the other moments that I really like, these are very basic things that we see in Smith Rowe's game. First one, he gets the ball. There's a couple of men on him, very simple pass, but he just pushes the ball back, takes 2 men out of the game, square pass into Zinchenko. Again, these things seem simple, but at this level, this takes intelligence. 9 out of 10 players who haven't played football for a long time pass that ball back to the centre-back, because although he's created a straight line, they probably don't take that touch and square it into Zinchenko, because although it's a sideways pass on the statistical charts, this is a harder pass than it looks, because he's had to buy the space, he's had to play it, and then he's playing it at a slightly forwards angle, even though it will go down on the numbers as a sideways pass. And that's Smith Rowe's awareness, it's his technical qualities, and all those things that go into playing for a team like Arsenal. And it's these little details that make him so dangerous, because that square pass has immediately removed 2 defenders and allowed Arsenal to create space on the left-hand side. And those 2 defenders now have to get straight back on their bike and get back into an area, and they've been dragged into a position they don't want to go to. And again, look, when I said about Smith Rowe and being in and around the box, first one you see, ball comes out, Smith Rowe stretches and manages to get the ball first time into Kai Havertz, because he's a player that's always thinking about the attack. He's thinking, how do I get this the quickest way in? He can dribble, he can carry, he can pass, but his first thought is the fastest route to goal. Martinelli's a bit like that. Saka's a player that plays at his own rhythm, as is Martin Odegaard. But Smith Rowe and Martinelli both have the ability that they think what is the fastest route to goal. But what I loved about this is the ball, Havertz lost the ball, it comes back. Smith Rowe is the first player to react. He controls it in his chest, takes it down, second touch, very, very composed into Martin Odegaard. That's something that I don't know if we would have saw that commitment from Smith Rowe a couple of years ago. And this is a result of being pushed and being really pressurized to develop those parts of his game over a kind of 2-year period. And we're starting to see he's a much more physical player than he was a couple of years ago. And he's more than capable of winning the duels. And with more match time, we're going to see him be fitter, be stronger, be quicker. And all these decisions, all these passes are going to be that bit more crisp, a bit more reactionary. And then whenever he is on the ball and he has got time, he's going to be more clear-headed, because he's not going to be thinking, I need to prove myself at Arsenal. He's going to be thinking, I belong here. And that's when you see the best of players, when they're not fighting for their place. Another great moment, we saw Smith Rowe, ball comes in from Martin Odegaard, and I mentioned Thomas Partey about the half turn. Smith Rowe is what I would call a transition monster. He's someone that gets the ball, one touch with his left, and turns and drives quickly with his right. And that creates transitions and creates an opportunity to speed up the game, even in the tightest situations. Look at the number of Luton players back at this point. Odegaard plays the ball in. Smith Rowe's calling for it. He wants it. You see the second graphic, quick turn on his left. So by receiving on his left, he's immediately getting his body to turn. He's turning his hips, his shoulders, and allowing himself to drive with his right. And then he gives a very quick release into Leandro Trossard. And ultimately, this ball's cut out. But that stretches Luton. It gives them something to think about. And it's another good moment where Smith Rowe has really caught the eye in this game. And that's a player that can be doing this for Arsenal. And what I felt last night was this is a guy that, with his man of the match performance, he came out and he said, I belong at Arsenal. I'm going to prove that I want to be here. I'm going to prove that I should be a player in this team. I should be getting more minutes. I want to be getting more minutes. And for me, this was a huge performance for him in the context of the season, for the run-in. And it's a player that needs to earn his minutes right now. Mikel Arteta does not hand out appearances. He does not give anything away for free. And he does not give players minutes just because they're part of the squad. He makes you earn them. And that's part of why we criticize Arteta for not using his squad effectively, because he doesn't use players as often as he maybe should. But that's because if you get a game for Arteta, it's because you've earned it on the training ground. You've gone out, you've done everything he asked of you. And I think Smith Rowe showed last night that everything that was in his game is a result of the training that he has done over the last couple of years. Look, thank you to everyone that's joined the show. Please drop a like on the video. Please tell us in the comments what you think of Smith Rowe. Does he have a future at Arsenal? How important is he going to be in the running? And what did you think of his performance against Luton? Did he deserve the man of the match award? But look, please tune in again for the main pod on Saturday after the Brighton game. You can find the main pod on Apple and Spotify. And also, we will be back on Tuesday with another 15-minute show. So thank you to everyone that's joined, and have a good day.